Tiny one over there on the shelf.
That's the one we're gonna face.
Good morning.
Good morning. We have everybody in, Travis.
Okay. I'm gonna call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Montler,
Here.
Graylow,
Here.
Whitey,
Here.
Teasy,
Here.
Gilbertson.
Here. Approve agenda.
Addition of discussion about the 4-H kitchen renovation.
And I'm comfortable, based off of the conversation we had, if there is a decision that needs to be made on this, since it won't be really a final decision in the form of we're just deciding, who's responsible for cleaning. We should be comfortable also making a decision today.
Okay.
So is that a motion to?
Motion to approve, yeah.
Second. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Sign, motion passes. Any conflict of interest declarations? Hearing none. Approved minutes from March 3rd.
So moved.
Second. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion passes. Are there any visitors to be heard that aren't on the agenda? Hearing none. Regular business. Driveway application for Robert Peterson.
I brought them up to you.
Yep. They seem pretty straightforward.
Yeah, we went out and measured them. They're all 18-inch culverts, so.
And they've got the check, right? thought
Yes,
saw
yes,
this.
I have the checks.
So we'll do the first one.
Move to approve the culvert for Robert Peterson. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion passes. Then we've got a driveway application for Tim Gregoire and Kim Waslin on 309th.
Move to approve the application for Tim Gregoire and Ken Wasson on 309th Street.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion passes. Right of way application for Blue Peak for fiber located under 299th Street at 452nd Avenue. And under 452nd Avenue at 300th Street. And under 452nd Avenue.
Yeah, there's 4. They're gonna do 4 borings.
Okay.
Move to approve the right of way for Blue Peak.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Sign. Motion passes. Contract for Frog Creek Road Culvert Replacement Project.
This is the one that was bid out, correct?
Yeah.
Low south. Poison.
Approval of the contract.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Close same sign, motion passes. Contract for 2026 asphalt surface treatment project.
This was road guy. Great. Yep. Move to approve the 2026 asphalt surface treatment project. Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion passes. Propane quotes.
Butch's Propane got the propane quote at $1.20. Move to approve Butch's propane.
Second.
Oh, yeah.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Nothing else, Tim?
That's it.
Thank you. Burn ban ordinance discussion.
Yes, so don't have it finalized quite yet, I'm speaking to the mic here. Looks like what we've done in the past is, we've got an ordinance, we're gonna have to go through the same ordinance creation process. I'm working. Cameron and I have been working on this jointly. What I anticipate is gonna be that, just wanna make sure I'm on the same page with you guys, and then also kind of give an update on what I expect this is gonna look like. We're changing the language to make the person that started the fire responsible for the fire. In order to do that, I think the easiest way, and I know you guys, do you have that ordinance in front of you? Under 2E, it currently reads, open burning must be directly supervised while actively burning by the adult burner who is responsible for the property being burned and whose contact information has been provided to the Clay County Communications Center prior to the start of the open burn. I just think it now needs to read, open burning must be directly supervised while actively burning by the adult burner who started the fire. And that language, the adult who started the fire, is found throughout that ordinance and other places. So this week I'm gonna work with sheriff and fire chief just to make sure that they're comfortable with the language too. And I'll plan on bringing this as, eventually through NOAA as well as an ordinance back to this body. The other thing that we found is we know by state law that if there's a state law on the books, you can't have a county cannot implement a fine that's higher than the equivalent state law. There's a law that's similar, it's 5415. It's different, but it's called unauthorized fires. It's probably similar enough that we should stay to the bond schedule that's under that section in law, which is $54 fine. It'd be $78.50 court cost, $54 fine, it's $132.50 by the time it's all said and done. That's a pretty standard number these days on class 2 misdemeanor offenses. So my recommendation will be to implement that $54 fine, and then there'll be court costs on top of it. So there'll be language essentially reading where what I anticipate bringing you will be language that does a couple things. One, implements that $54 fine. It's silent as to the court costs because the court costs will change with the circuit. So right now it'd be $132.50. But also I'm going to include language that I would recommend, which is going to say that there's no possibility of jail time. What that does is if somebody does want to contest it, they do not have the right to a defense attorney, a public defender to represent them because there's no punishment potential as far as jail time. So they would just have the right to have a court trial as a pro se defendant unless they want to go hire their own attorney in front of the court if they want to contest the value a violation of this ordinance.
So is this saying that even if you've called it in and it gets away from you, we're fining you?
It does say that. That's what it says still.
Is that what we're trying to do?
Let me read it. I said open burning must be directly supervised by while actively burning by the adult burner who started the fire. So it doesn't say that if it gets away from you, it necessarily be a violation. What we've had happen before is how it read before. It read, it must be supervised while actively burning by the adult burner who's responsible for it. So if you started it and you want to go into town and your brother manages it, and then it gets out of control because he walks away, he'd be fined. How this reads now, pursuant to the conversation we had a couple weeks ago, was just make the person who started the fire responsible for the fire. So if you were to delegate that duty to someone else and it gets away from them, you would be the one responsible for violation.
Is there a reason not to leave it the way it is, or what was the reasoning behind not leaving it the way it is, I guess? I guess. A burn can take a long time, so I can understand, we gotta go have lunch or whatever, and then somebody else is in charge.
The question becomes who's responsible, and it's not, are both responsible? This is the issue that I think it's been from an enforcement mechanism, right? That who's truly responsible for the fire.
Over here, we can't shout from the back of the room now. Approach the mic. Yeah, the issue is the person responsible for the fire. Well, is that the absent landowner that's responsible that told the hired hand to burn it? But he's in Iowa. Is he the one responsible for it? So the responsible person isn't really clear. And I like what Michael said, that, you know, if you started a fire or you directed somebody to start it, and they start it and they leave, sure, yeah, you know, if you want to have your kids sit out there and watch it while you run to town, that's fine, but you're still on the hook. You're responsible for that other person that you delegated it to. I think it's got to be somebody, because otherwise you just get these pointed fingers, and we've run into that. Where the guy that owns land said, I didn't burn it, he burned it, and he said, well, he told me to. And who do we cite?
Who threw the match, right?
Yeah, and so we have to identify that person.
Now, I have no problem with that part. It's if it got away from you.
Yeah, and I don't think that was ever.
I don't think that was ever really
No.
intended to be a criminal. I don't know if Matt would agree or not, but
What if that statute or our ordinance says that?
if it got away from you while it was unattended.
If it's unattended.
that's a problem.
Okay.
Yes.
If you're there,
We're
you're
gonna-
watching it and it spread, the wind came up and it spread. And you called in. You know, you had previously reported it, now it got out of control, you dial 911, the fire comes out, geez, I don't know what we expect out of people, you know, I don't know if Matt would agree with that or not.
Because I,
Yeah, the intent was never to, if it got out of control and somebody called in their own fire that's getting out of control, was to find them. It was the ones that aren't called in that we respond to, and then also the ones that are lit and then left unattended, we get called to. It was never for the out of control. It's getting out of control and they call 911 themselves.
So as you read through this ordinance, section 2A is you cannot start a fire during a red flag. 2B is you cannot start an open fire. 2B is you cannot start a burn barrel during a red flag. 3 talks about campgrounds. 4 reads during the time when open burning is permitted, no person shall start an open burn without first notifying the Clay County Communication Center. And then E will now read open burning must be directly supervised while actively burning by the adult burner who started the fire. So it talks about supervision. It's all about supervision. So if it gets out of control while being supervised, that's not a violation of E. It's all about whether or not that person is supervising the fire.
Yeah.
And people do call in where, you know, if they call Matt's office, he's gonna tell them to call us to dispatch. If they call my office, we transfer that to dispatch. Dispatch logs that on a map. If there's a fire, but they also take note of whether or not there's a red flag warning and notify the person that they are in a bird ban.
Yeah, and I believe the ordinance also not only red flag, but I used to have fire weather watch in there as well. So if we go into a fire weather watch, which is first, and then typically we may roll to a red flag, we may not, but either way, with the difference in those is, you know, a little bit of humidity and a little bit of wind. There's still the humidity is still very low in a fire weather watch and the winds are still high. So those were the two things that were put into that. So if a National Weather Service puts those in place for a certain time period, it automatically triggers a burn ban in the county.
that's still prior to the snowball. We must have been what?
We were not. Well, I take that back. A couple days we were for 8-9 hours. Winds would get high, humidity would drop bottom into the teens. Then National Weather Service would place us into it. Other counties around us have put in permanent burn bans. I don't think that that's necessary. And talking with Lane, you know, it hasn't been brought up that we need to be in a permanent burn ban like some of the other counties. The way we have it worded, the trigger points are there for us to automatically go in and come back out at certain times, and dispatch logs all that and tells people, well, we're in a burn ban till 8 p.m. There is no open burning. They've been warned at that point. And it's recorded.
That is on that website though, as long as you punch in your zip code on that National Weather Service.
Yes, I believe it puts a banner at the top. Yep.
And you know, the whole point of this ordinance, I think, is really just to encourage the communication. If they call in, they're gonna get the same answer. If they look at the website and they see it, then they don't burn, ideally. But if they call in, they're gonna be told if it's a burn ban, it's gonna be documented who called. We'll have a phone number to call back. Cause you know, if somebody's driving down the highway and says, there's a big burn going on out here. And then we say, well, yeah, he called us. It's a really big burn. Then we can call the guy back and just say, how you doing out there?
Because they always take your phone.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
And so then we can check on them, you know, hopefully they're still there and present and say, no, it's fine. But if they said, I don't know, I ran to town, let me, you know, then we're probably gonna have to get out there.
This says open burn. Right. What's the definition of open burn?
What's in here? Open burning shall be defined as any outdoor fire, including but not limited to the prescribed burning of fence rows, fields, wildlands, trash, and debris, the intentional burning of any substance, whether natural or man-made, or the intentional casting off of any burning substance, whether natural or man-made, except the burning of such substance in a container sufficient so as to prohibit the escape of any of the burning substance or any sparks, flames, or hot ashes from the container. Nice simple.
So burn ban or a burn barrel with mesh over the top wouldn't fall under this.
I do have a question for Jeffrey at the park then. How do you regulate the campfires in those situations?
There is a
Like,
specific,
Campfires are exempted in this one.
under 2C campgrounds reads the ban on open burning, open fire does not apply to those designated areas falling within the boundaries of any permitted commercial, state, county, or federal campgrounds unless otherwise specifically banned by resolution of the Clay County Board of Commissioners.
Should we be doing that or should the park board? I mean, they're the ones man.
Yeah, I mean, so to answer that, they do have a campground host on site. Keeping an eye on things. Yep. It's worked pretty well.
What I'm wondering is if we should give you, the park board, that authority to do that, because according to this ordinance, we're the only ones who can impose it. But technically, the park board should be doing it on a day-by-day basis.
But isn't
So-
that?
You're thinking delegating some authority to the park board to either permit or not permit other fires on the,
No,
Is that
just
what
the
you-
camp.
in the
If-
campground?
I mean, if you guys said, no, it's way too dry to have campfires, you shouldn't have to wait for us as a commission to give you that authority. Because right now it's written that way, correct?
Yeah, that's how I read it. It says
Yep.
the ban on open burning does not apply to those designated areas falling within the boundaries of any permitted commercial, state, county, or federal campground unless otherwise specifically banned by resolution of the commission.
I think it would
I think
just be easy for the park board to do it on a day-by-day basis on their own authority and judgment.
I see Lane has a comment. That sounds like a reasonable idea to me, but I want to hear from Lane.
Hey, on that host, are they there 24/7?
There is usually a host there pretty much 24/7, I think, during the camping season. They're allowed to go into town. We try to have a separate person. If they're going to be gone, we try to have two hosts so that someone can fill in for them. So we've got somebody there and you're not required to be on site for the entire summer. And then there's also a manager separately, Fred Valloway. He's out there most days, not all night, but
They can't tell each, they can put the sign on post and then if they have to tell each individual camper, no fires today. I don't think that's unreasonable, is it, Jeffrey, that?
no, I think that makes some sense. Yeah, especially with all the droughts we've been having lately. And
Lane, did you still have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, when we wrote that, it was that the campgrounds would be included if the commissioners put on a permanent burn ban. It was not to exempt them from the permanence of it.
I see.
And the intent was that, I mean, the park board can shut down burning anytime they want. It doesn't matter if it's a red flag or not. They should be able to close down their own facilities.
So
Yeah, and
I read this, I agree with Lane. It says the ban on open burning does not apply unless the commission incorporates them. The problem from an enforcement mechanism would be if the burning, then, and they don't, they're not in compliance with what the board or what the park is telling them to do, then you couldn't cite them for this.
So I think we could, go ahead, Jeffrey.
yeah, I'm seeing on section 2C campgrounds. So the ban on open burning does apply to those designated areas falling within the boundaries of any permitted commercial, state, county, or federal campgrounds, unless otherwise specifically banned by resolution of the Clay County Board of Commissioners. So if we have a if we have a countywide one, it is also applicable in the campground. But a camp fire is not considered open burning.
You're right. I think I just read a not in there. That's not there.
But Lane, correct me if I'm wrong, if the National Weather Service put in a fire weather watch or a red flag warning, was that not also to stop campfires in the campgrounds as well? Because I mean, there is a high risk of fires in those and they can be left unattended.
They can be, but from day one, Clay County Park was exempt from just the red flag, just because generally speaking, people are by their fires when they're lit, and there is a containment ring around them. Yeah, from the original conception, Clay County Park was exempt from the red flag.
Okay.
Well, if there is a red flag, I think that should go back to that host, in my mind. They should be monitoring it and they should be,
Well, the host can do it.
either one.
Yeah.
But I mean, if the hosts are on site, Fred is
Right.
not guaranteed always there, so.
Do they have that authority then by this ordinance?
No. We'd have to.
I don't think that it's clear on that. I mean, I think that they would have the same authority that any other you permitted someone to come there, and then you have some say over what their activities are. You can tell them that they're acting inappropriately and tell them to leave, tell them they're being unsafe.
Maybe somebody wants. It's early. I'm gonna blame it on that. The ban on open burning does apply to designated areas falling within the boundaries of all of these campgrounds, unless specifically banned by the state. But so it applies unless you guys ban the application of. I'm not sure that that's what the intention behind the wording is.
I think it was that it was banned, and then if we get into a severe drought, like super severe, and the commission decides we're going to put in a long-term burn ban, then the commission has the right to ban it long-term in parks and campgrounds and things like that, just like they would across the county.
That got brought over this language that probably needs cleaned up, because it says that these bans are applicable in commercial or in campgrounds unless the commission specifically bans by resolution stop it.
What would it be?
That's not what it should read. That's not how it should read.
So we'd have to take that authority away from, we'd have to say this doesn't apply there. But as it is, it applies.
Is it fair to say we have a consensus of what everybody's intentions are and we should go and draft this and come back with a recommendation?
Yes.
Kind of clean up some of this language. Now I think we know what everybody has in mind,
So,
rather than to draft it in this meeting.
right. So what is everybody's intention?
Yeah. So
Think you're gonna write.
That's what I need somebody to tell me.
yeah, so I'll just share. So my misunderstanding here is that that up above they say that permanent fire pits and fire grates are excluded from open fires, and then down below the ban on open burning does apply to those areas falling within the boundary. So there's a lack of clarity there. My desire would be to have the same burn ban apply in campsites in Clay County Park as the rest of the county, and to leave that consistent. So if the burn ban's in effect for the county, then it's in effect in Clay County Park for the campfire fire pit there too.
So your manager and your camp host are gonna have to monitor the weather, because I don't think that the campers are gonna call in wondering if it's a red flag
Right.
day.
We've gotta have them as the responsible,
Right.
as the enforcing party.
Yep, put up a note that says, yep. I mean, unless that's not the desire. I mean, what do people think if somebody had a fire that was not open burning? Like, I guess I'm asking Matt Callahan, if somebody's got what are your thoughts about the relative risk or not risk of a campfire at a campsite versus some of these other things? Should it be exempted or not?
Well, I mean, I guess the risk is always there. If we're in a red flag warning from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and some at 7 p.m. they light their campfire, at 10 o'clock they extinguish it. We all know how that goes a lot of times. And then they go to bed, and then it flares up because it gets a little windy. I mean, obviously the conditions are still there. They're not as bad to have the burn ban and the temporary burn ban in effect because we're under a red flag or a fire weather watch. It almost seems like it needs to be a little clearer and, maybe not the exemption areas throughout the county, because if somebody decides to have a large bonfire at their house during a red flag warning, that's technically not allowed, but it would be allowed in the campground. I
think it needs to be straight across. Because the fire's not gonna know they can't leave the campground. They got out of control.
fair. Yeah.
It needs to be.
And we can
Yeah,
be into federal land pretty easy down there.
And I think a large fire, something outside of one of the fire pits would be clearly clearly an open fire. But I'm wondering, like, within the designated campfire, if the person's keeping it within that, is there a relevant distinction there, or once the fire is lit, when it's those sorts of conditions, it's risky either way
I think
if it's not
risky
covered with grade.
because if
Sorry.
things don't change, I can see us being we're gonna come back and do a countywide burn ban. If things don't get better.
My recommendation, if that's what you're talking about, is that when there's a red flag warning, that the camp host would then post a sign. You could have it pre-made, red flag warning, no campfires, and then under it have a penalty. Violation of this is, $132.50 fine or whatever. And then ideally, then the camp host would just monitor that. People have a fire, they go tell them, put it out. They refuse to put it out. They call us and we come out and we write a ticket. And we know who to write it to. It's the person that wrote that lit the fire. It might be their first weekend there, but the sign was posted.
And they've been
Yep.
at least been warned once to put it out.
Yeah, I would expect that the camp host will run around and tell people, put it out. Sorry, you gotta put it out. There's water right
Yep.
there. You're gonna put out. If they refuse
Yep.
to put it out or they go to bed leaving it on, then we can address that. But at least now people have been put on notice and we know who to cite.
Yeah,
And I think that was really the reason we're having this conversation, is to make sure we know who to cite.
Lane, you're not here, and I don't look up in the corner and see your 2x2 picture, but what's your thoughts on simplifying it out?
I think it's a legitimate thing. I personally don't care if we put the Clay County Park out of exemption, I guess, for the red flag part. The park board when all of this started was completely against it, but it sounds like Jeffrey may be open to this, and I'm good with it.
Yeah, the current park board spends a fair amount of time considering liability and things like that. And my expectation is you'd have a consensus on the park board in support of some additional controls.
I'll draft some language consistent with this conversation. I'll give that language to Andy and Matt this week. We'll have a conversation. My intention will be next meeting, we'll bring a proposed ordinance.
Are we able to direct where the fine goes?
The fine goes into the clerk. I don't think you can direct where that fine money goes. It's
The
just
clerk will send the $50, whatever, to the treasurer.
to the county, correct? $54 fine to the county. The rest of it is a court cost. So that's gonna go where court costs are designated. to
Right.
the
Yes,
state.
but I just meant the fine.
Yeah, the fine amount, the 54, Andy's right, that stays as a county fine, just like our other ordinance violations, or that's all month that stays in.
So is it only the state that can direct where fines go then? Cause they, like, overweight fines go to school districts.
Yeah, that's all built into statute, that then those overweight ones specifically, because there's such a high, that those violations can be extreme, and $10,000 violations on overweight trucks. So that's.
I've never
built
understood
out.
that.
Yeah. The legislator built in that statute where those fines go specifically on like the overweight trucks. Otherwise, there's a whole system in place where that goes, but the $54 will return to the county.
Are we able to we're able to do something with that money then, right? I guess my intent was whoever got called out, whatever fire department got called out, whatever district that was in, they should get the fund.
Ultimately, it'd be once that goes back in the county purse, the county can designate where those funds go.
I mean, it's minimal compared to what it costs them to run out.
And there's the, there are, as we discussed at the last meeting, there are civil avenues for fire departments to sue individuals too, which I don't think we probably ever really used to my understanding, but it does exist.
There are cases that they would like to do it. It's like a few weeks ago, Centerville got called out 3 times for the same fire.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, and as a fire department, we have the ability to bill for those and send a bill. But if it's not paid, like Michael said, the fire department would be civilly then having to sue the person that was billed to try to recoup those costs. And at that point, is it worth the $500 bill you sent or whatnot for extinguishment of that fire?
So the intent is to put everybody in the county under the same rules.
Yeah, that's what I understand.
So then we bring the proposal at the next meeting. Are we gonna schedule a separate first reading for that?
Let me see what I can get done.
Okay.
Does this ordinance still allow us to put on the countywide burn ban? Or can we somehow incorporate that our ability to do that is still?
Well, it says by SCCL 7/8/2018, the commission authorizes Lane to enact a declaration of a fire danger emergency to prohibit open burning within the county. Subject to separate action by the commission, said declaration will be enforced immediately and autonomously when the National Weather Service places the area in a red flag warning or a fire watch. So it contemplates separate action by the county commission.
So we can still do that.
Yeah, I want to say when we did this, I don't know, was it pre-COVID? I lost track of time since COVID, but the intent was when Lane and I had talked about this was that Lane would have the ability immediately, like it's gotten really bad, we need to put this in, but we just had a commission meeting 2 days ago. He could put a burn ban into effect till the next commission meeting when the commission then could take action and extend that for however long or indefinitely until they wanted to rescind that at whatever meeting. Lane, am I speaking correctly on how we set that up a while ago or tried to set it up a while ago?
Yeah, it's closer to 10 years ago now.
Holy cow.
But,
Close to COVID.
yeah, old age is setting in.
Uh-huh.
It was never intended for me to be able to declare a burn ban, just because if I happen to be out of town, it won't get done. The declaration part is me writing the resolution for the commission to enact a burn ban. And we can always hold a special meeting for that. If I'm correct, Michael.
As I read this, I would say that you have the authority to enact the declaration, but the burn ban goes into effect autonomously when the National Weather Service places the county either in the fire weather watch or the red flag line. So that is automatic. That just occurs on its own.
Right.
Yep.
Or authorize the Office of Emergency Management to enact declaration of fire danger emergency and to prohibit open burning or restrict open burning after consultation with officials and law enforcement to protect the public and safety. So that is true. I would agree with that the authority to essentially place the county in a burn ban, a temporary burn ban, beyond the red flag, beyond the National Weather Service lies with Lane. If there's a reason to put us in a ban, a burn ban, and the National Weather Service hasn't recognized that through the fire weather watch or the red flag status, the commission through this authorizes the emergency manager to enact the declaration after consultation with the fire officials and law enforcement officials to protect public health and safety.
We don't need a 24-hour notice to do that then, right?
No, and well, because you've given that authority to Lane to make that decision.
Okay. Can he?
Okay, it's never been used that way, but if I was to put a burn ban out as a temporary permanence kind of a thing, you guys would be informed. There would be no way I would do that without letting commission know and all that.
Well, I mean, you could do it and we can at least have a Zoom meeting 24 hours later.
Correct. Yep.
That meet with.
Right. And well, you could have a special meeting without the 24-hour notice. That would fit under the emergency exemptions for the notice requirements.
Oh, it does.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
I saw a message pop up while we were talking. Steve Waller said that he couldn't hear everybody's microphone. Is there a specific microphone you couldn't hear, Steve?
I have no problem hearing Chief Callahan, Lane, and now you. Everyone else is very, very soft in background.
Okay.
I was sitting back away from mine, so.
You said, oh, potential.
I think you gotta be within about a foot of it.
We got spoiled at the law enforcement center with the new microphones.
We got to get one of those over here.
Well, what I'll do is I'll also speak with Lane. It seems like he's clearly pretty instrumental in this burn ban as well. So let me get with the three of them. And then we'll come up with a plan over the next week. And my intention will be to either come back for another further discussion or hopefully just a proposal of a first read with everybody on the same page.
Anything else on that?
On that.
Good? Okay. Thanks. Public service pathway.
Okay, so this is just an, really, just a heads up, just giving you an FYI. Back in 2024, the Supreme Court, appointed a committee to work on essentially, it's called the Public Service Pathway to Bar Admission. It's to allow, a select few law students to take a public service pathway to bar admission without actually taking bar exam. They allow, last year was the first year the law school did this. They allowed up to 10 students to participate. It's like a 5-year commitment. Once you get rolling into this program, and there's a lot of work that goes into it, where eventually you have to dedicate yourself to like a 5-year placement inside of public service in the state of South Dakota after you graduate law school. And during that process, work under the direction of licensed attorneys, and you work as an attorney. You submit work eventually to the Supreme Court along the way, and at the end of it, they essentially, I don't know if you sit in a room with them or if you just submit work to them, but they ultimately make the decision on whether or not to grant you your permanent bar license at the end of this public service pathway program. It was implemented in 2025 after the South Dakota Supreme Court made law, suggested law to the legislator, and it's now been enacted. So last year was the first year the law school participated in this. I was approached this winter about potentially being a placement for a third-year law student. So what the expectation or what's requirement is again, there's only 10 students of these days 80 or 90 who are in each class at the law school. 10 students are up to 10 are selected to begin the process formally in their third year. Really, there might be some work they do in their second year, but they're selected in the fall, so the spring semester of their second year. And really, like, step one is work within a public service, work in public service law, which is going to either be a public defender's office or a state attorney's office generally, for 500 hours during the fall of your third year of law school, your last year. So they don't take any classes. Their entire obligation is to being a full-time employee for that agency for their third year fall semester. 500 hours starts from the middle of August, goes until beginning of December. And I agreed to that placement. Some counties are paying folks to come in and do the work. Obviously, we're positioned in a location that's very optimal for the law school. They have to return to school their spring semester, so they're already, it's not like they're leaving Vermillion permanently. Those that are leaving Vermillion for their 500-hour fall third year fall semester placement have to return to Vermillion for the spring semester. Talking to the law school, there's a mixture. It's, not every county or city, probably mostly counties are paying if they agreed to a placement. I know Brown County State's Attorney agreed to a placement last fall, and they did pay, but of course, that person had to leave Vermillion, go all the way up to Aberdeen, work that semester, and then come back to Vermillion in the spring. So probably pay for an apartment in two places, depending on where they're from. So, my recommendation at this point, of course, would not be to pay an individual for placement. We don't pay law externs or interns when they work for me. The fall, spring, or summer semesters, usually they get credit. Same thing here, they're going to be getting credit, but they're also going to be accomplishing the necessity for them to be in this Pathways program. There's no obligation on the county for future placement. They do this placement during the fall. Of course, if you're the applicant, best case scenario is you love the work that you do in that spot, and then there's an opening and they come back and work. But there's no obligation on the county to employ this person after they're done with law school to continue their public pathway service. So it's really a win-win for the county. We will be able to bring in an individual who can operate in the courtroom, who's actually supposed to be in the courtroom. Generally, they'll probably take on a pretty hefty misdemeanor caseload, and maybe they'll be down here occasionally, but Tuesday morning is also misdemeanor court, so Cameron's there right now. I'll supervise that individual along with Caitlin, and then eventually, they'll do some real heavy lifting as far as legal work inside of our office this fall. Of course, we don't get them for whatever that turns into, 16 or 18 weeks, but it's a real benefit to the county. We essentially get a person for, it's a baby attorney that we get for a quarter of the year. We'll give them an experience, and hopefully it's a good placement, and we'll want to continue it. So wanted to give you an FYI on what that is. I've already talked to the law school. I intend on bringing them in unless there's some pushback from the commission on free labor. So, my hope is that at least in the short term, it'll open up everybody else. It's going to require some work from us, bringing in an intern like this always does. But the individual that appears to likely be coming into my office in the fall has done internships at other state's attorney's offices. So they'll walk in, understand what to do, should pick up the job pretty quick.
So they're placed, you don't get to pick who you want.
Yeah, I work with I work with the law school, but then they ultimately send me either one or two, to kind of contemplate. This year they just sent me one, so they must have had, I don't know if they have less than 10 or if they just have different placement needs, because the student gets to kind of, on their application, they choose whether or not they would prefer to do work with criminal work or civil work. So it could also be like a city attorney, who could also get involved with this as well. So they're trying to pair up the student with location as well as interest. So this year, they don't send me all of them. This year they sent me one. I haven't met the individual, but on paper, I was pretty satisfied with it appeared this individual seemed very interested in pursuing criminal work, and seems like for that reason it'd be a good placement. Certainly could be times when it could be difficult for them. Correct. You don't have a lot of say on it. You bring in, you agree to it, you just gonna have to deal with it more or less. But I think we're in a position right now within the office that and giving back to the law school is a good thing. All three of us that are in the office now went to that law school and back to it. I think we all feel grateful to have that opportunity too. So heads up on what the program is, what our intentions are. If you've got any concerns, certainly let me know. But
sounds like a win-win.
I think so too.
Any luck on a new hire?
I've got applicants, and I've reached out to them yesterday after the city meeting. I came back to the office, and I've just been so busy, so I could get the email sent out to all of them. I start scheduling. So started that process. We've got good applicants, I think. We'll see how first wave goes.
Anything else on that? If not, no one?
Just kind of coming to you guys, I'm requesting permission to do sign offs on all plats, you know, minor and major. Over the past year, officially today.
Really?
Yeah, today's been 1 year. Yeah, you're stuck with me. No,
It's just how fast. I know.
no, so the,
You had a big day yesterday.
sure did.
Three things. House, birthday.
Yep.
House?
Yeah, about a house.
Really?
Yep.
Where, so you're moving?
Yep, and here in town.
I'm working to live
No, so something I've noticed over the past year is we've had a handful of meetings. I mean, you can contest and so can Dave. Where the only thing on the agenda was a plat. To me, I feel like that's kind of a waste of county resources and money if we're just having a meeting for a single plat. It's also inconvenient for the individual if they come in the day after the meeting and submit a plat that has to go to them. So now they have to wait a full month for that to even occur. So just trying to streamline the process and, you know, speed things up. But I would need y'all's blessing to sign off on all of that.
I mean, he's gotta follow the same. I mean, Dave, you've been in the same meetings I've been, yep, it meets the ordinance. Yeah. I mean, we should hope for that. But never really been any discussions on them. They follow the guidelines. And that doesn't stop him from bringing them to you if he thinks it's questionable.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be my only concern is what, when would one have to come to us first? Sign it out, or do you ever see a point?
Yeah, so like the main example would be like that rezone developments. Obviously, those get fully brought in, so we have the plat, the rezone, you know, what are they all doing? You guys approve it, but then once they officially bring in the official plat, instead of having to redo that meeting that you guys already seen it, I can just sign off on it.
And it's still, the applicant still has the ability to appeal his decision. Also, so.
Right.
If he says, I don't wanna sign it, or I don't think I should, he can either take it to them or they can appeal.
Yep.
Jeffrey has a question.
Yeah. Want to make sure I was clear on what step exactly are we considering removing? So right now a plat is heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission once, is that right? And then twice by the full commission? Were we
No.
considering losing one of those public meetings, or what was the specific request?
So right now we have minor and major plats. I am requesting to sign off on major plats because it just goes to the planning commission for them to also review the exact same thing I review to sign off on.
And then the planning commission decides, that then does not come up to the county
No.
commission, it just is signed off on, agreed on, or.
Yeah, so
not.
On a minor plat?
On a major.
On a
plat.
major
Minor plat, no one makes a decision.
Correct.
On a major plat, it goes to planning and zoning, one reading, if they don't have any issue, they give their blessing and signed off on that. That is an authority that is with the planning commission, it's not a recommendation, that's a decision that they get to make.
I thought that plats were heard by the full commission, but is that only on appeal?
On appeal.
Yeah, on appeal.
I think that it's important to retain an open meeting step for a major plat. I can understand the inconvenience there, but I think that it's important to give people the opportunity. If it's all taking place within your office, then there's just, you're losing some important public transparency there.
Where's this found at in the ordinance?
Subdivision.
Subdivision ordinance?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's mostly, you know, say mom and dad are splitting the land, they add a permanent easement to the back half because that's where the row crop is. You know, that permanent easement would now have to come to the planning commission for approval instead of just getting signed off.
That time factor, that's important too. We shouldn't ignore that.
Yeah, no, and that's my main thing, cause like, yes, I could, we could have hosted a special meeting, but then once again, we're doubling how much the planning and zoning is costing the county.
Well, take that out. Don't even worry about that. It's just. It's following the ordinance. I mean, that's how it gets passed anyway.
Yeah. So. Yeah, like I said, most of the time it's literally just a permanent easement or they're vacating. Lisa, myself and Linnea all look at plats prior to them getting dropped off at my office already. And we say, hey, surveyor, this is wrong, and then it gets fixed prior to.
We're not talking building.
Yeah, no. And so my main thing is, if it's like that Beersford development,
Just plat.
that went all the way up to you guys for approval, and what was approved then becomes a plat, and I sign off on the plat.
Okay.
Jeffrey.
So I had to pull my ordinance up here because I feel like we always consider these at the commission level, and I'm realizing now that I was conflating the final plat and the preliminary plan. So the concept plan goes to the zoning administrator. That's all occurs in your office, and then you have multiple open hearings at the preliminary plan stage. And so I think as long as the final plan is the same as the preliminary plan, then well, I guess that approval is already just by the zoning administrator. So it looks like we are removing either one or both of these approval by planning commission and board of county commissioners for the preliminary plan. So the final plat is already just approved by the zoning administrator. And
We lost you.
Jeff, you're muted there, Jeff.
sorry about that. I'm looking at page 4 of the subdivision ordinance.
Lost you again.
No,
Still can't hear you. Still can't hear you.
Sorry about that, fellas. I was using the spacebar thing, and I guess if I click on anything else, it just it breaks that. I was just saying, if you pull up the subdivision ordinance, what I'm referring to is page 4 of the subdivision ordinance. So that's where you've got those steps, and right now we've got both public bodies consider the preliminary plan, but the final plat is already just decided by. That's just on NOAA's authority.
Right, and so I guess major plats, like the basic major plats that come to my office 99% of the time are not a part of those rezones like we saw up in Beersford. Like the Beersford development that occurred, that would still come through this body, the whole 9. This is for the, hey, we're adding a permanent easement. Because the permanent easement is now installed, it has to go to the planning commission. That's, yeah. That's what I'm trying to sign off on.
I think either way, you're gonna have to change, you're gonna have to make a change to the ordinance in order to affect that.
Yep.
You know, so. I think what probably just to get the ball rolling.
Yep.
You need to contemplate where inside the subdivision ordinance you need to make those changes. Bring that to me, we can have a conversation and then probably have a better conversation with the commission on what that looks like based on the proposed modifications to the language of the subdivision ordinance, because without that change in the subdivision ordinance, I don't think you're not going to gain that authority.
Yeah, but more or less just, if you guys don't want me to pursue it, I won't, but this is something I would like to pursue just because.
I'm open to it. I don't know what it is.
I am too.
Yeah, I'm open to it and, get it drawn up. We'll take a look at it. Is there any other comment?
I would just share that the distinctions between the minor plats and a major plat, because I think a minor plat is already exempted from this. And so therefore, I think we should consider what does it mean for something to be a major plat. And so that does not require the dedication of a right of way or construction. So these would be plats that possibly require the dedication of a right of way or construction of new roads. These could be plats that require the creation of easements. They could be plats that landlock or otherwise impair convenient ingress or egress to or from the rear sides of subject tract or adjacent properties. They could be plats that significantly change plans that are prepared for the placement of any other utilities on the subdivision. They could be plats that adversely affect the remainder of the parcel or adjoining property, or they could be plats that conflict with provisions or portions of the comprehensive plan. So I think all of those things are pretty significant. So I think that once something is, I have some hesitation about removing any public hearings in a major plat consideration process, because they can impact neighbors pretty substantially. But I don't know that we can't consider ways that we might, if the primary consideration is we don't feel that easements are something that impacts the public. I'm not sure. I'd have to give some thought about that. But if that's what we think, then maybe we would consider removing that from the definitions of what makes something a major plat. But I think that removing the entire public meetings section of major plat consideration is something that a lot of people would oppose, and I would probably oppose.
Well, I think that when it's taken under consideration that NOAA follows the ordinances and the guidelines to approve it. All those things you mentioned are taken into considerations if they're involved in the guidelines and the ordinance as to begin with.
Yeah, and I just think that it's important that through a public meeting process. Oh, sorry.
But he has to follow ordinances and guidelines.
Yeah, providing the public the opportunity to comment on whether any of those things that I just mentioned affect them, I think is an important part of the process.
Okay. So hearing everybody today, move forward with what you think you need.
Okay.
We'll read it.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen.
Sure, I can do that. Regather my thoughts a little bit. So I was approached by Missy O'Connor at 4-H Fairgrounds, and they're working on their kitchen renovation, and they've raised funds. They're starting the process of kind of designing the kitchen with a committee, or how they would like it laid out. But she approached me about how to go about getting bids, and if the county would do the bids. The situation, for those who don't know, is the city owns the land, the county owns the building, and 4-H leases it from the county. So what they would like to do is they would like to have the bid process go through the county, and everything is quite possibly asbestos tiles. And then everything else, the construction of the kitchen and everything would kind of be all lumped into the bid as well. So with that being said, it kind of comes down to that confusion of city, county, 4-H, and the fact that they're paying for it. And so that's kind of, I went from pretty sure that we would be able to do it to the fact that they're paying for it kind of threw a wrench into the plans as far as how we would go about opening this up for bids if we were to facilitate.
I think it's gonna be simpler for them and probably get a better product. Since this is it's not a road,
Yeah.
It's gonna have little entrance. Little details that are gonna have to get flushed out by a contractor. I think they're gonna be better off. You can help them, but they're gonna wanna bid it, I think. And then just have contractors, before I go any farther, they don't have to follow the $50,000 bid limit, right?
No, on this, yeah, I mean, probably the public improvement projects, that's $100,000, but,
But they're not government entity.
They're not a government entity, so it's owned by the county, so it really would be up to whether or not we have anything either formally on the record, or at least if there isn't anything, any documents, is there, can we look back historically to how we treated the relationship within this building? And if the county is okay with ultimately the 4-H making these decisions on their own and doing whatever they decide to do within the building that's owned by the county. If the county wants to have a heavy hand involvement with this process, then it gets a lot more complicated, because the question is, we're not really expending public funds if the 4-H is a nonprofit, is paying for it, but if the county wants ultimate say on how the project goes, that relationship complicates as to whether or not there needs to be a bid process. I think ultimately the intention behind the bid requirement, though, is expending public funds, and here we're not expending public funds. So I think regardless of, ultimately, probably regardless of how you decide to play this, as to whether or not you just say hands off, 4-H make the decision, or we want to be involved, but it's, ultimately 4-H dollars being spent. I don't think that we're within the realm of what's required of the bid, statutory bid process anyway, because we're just not expending public funds. So I think this board can be involved to the extent it wants to be, but so long as it's all private funds being expended, the process can go however you guys choose, and or the 4-H.
I think you'd be better off to find how many of our contractors. Just have them walk through, give them the highlight of what they want to do. And get their, and then get their take on what that contractor thinks maybe they should do. They do it all the time. They're gonna have better ideas of what works and.
Are there any concerns from the county standpoint of modifications made to their building? I guess it'd be.
Not as far as updating the kitchen, they're not knocking walls out, so. I am concerned, since we went through all this now. Are they gonna have to put a sprinkler system? Is that a major remodel?
Probably should have a conversation with the city before decisions made.
Okay. Yep, okay, that's a good point. Glad I brought it up.
You're right, if they're not knocking walls down,
Yeah, I mean,
you're not changing the floor plane. But yes,
I think what their remodel's gonna be is. I mean, new appliances, new counters.
Yeah.
No walls are moving, and new flooring, and probably, I don't know if they're taking the tile off the wall, or.
Are they gonna go with a commercial type?
They are not gonna go commercial.
Oh, they are.
They were initially, but I think they have backed off from that.
Probably have to get a fire suppression hood and things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
More expense.
and yes, if there's asbestos involved, that's
Abatement is gonna be,
big.
yeah, that's dollars. So,
Which is gonna have to happen either way, so.
Yeah.
But I would figure out that's fire, sprinkler, if they have to do that. But I think they're gonna be better off that way, rather than,
yeah, like I said, I went from thinking that we would probably be in charge to when she said it's their funds, that's when the wrench got thrown in that I better start the conversation, and kind of went all the way downhill to here. So,
the other thing is, when they get started on that project, if that contractor has any questions. Even if we're involved and we say, Scott, you're the facility manager, he's gonna be calling Missy going, what did you want? So, cut out all the middle people and.
instead of doing the end around, yeah.
Yeah, this is gonna be the same person telling us what they want. I know it's more work for her.
Okay.
But I think it's gonna be easier in the long run, that if we don't have to do it.
Okay,
Not
I'll take
just
that.
because of rules.
I'll take that all back to Missy, and if she has any questions, I'll probably put it on the next agenda, but I know that they wanna get rolling here soon with their planning committee and stuff, so. I told her we'd have this meeting and then 31st, but I know they wanna get started by April, so. So I can take that back, all right.
And then, it'll be permitted.
Yeah.
So that's, time is a factor there too, so.
Yeah.
That'll be the next question, who's gonna take the permit out, do we take it out on?
We have a formal lease with 4-H.
We do. Oh, with 4-H, I don't know, but since we own the building, Wouldn't the permit have to be in our name?
Yeah.
Depending on what that lease looks like, but I would say probably.
And, you know, remind them it's only the $75. You know,
All
of
right,
course, we never did write that ordinance. We never did write the ordinance, so it's only actual cost that they can bill us for inspecting. On the building permit.
Was that-
That's not a,
That was the agreed upon conversation at,
we were gonna write something up and I never have. I need to get that done. But we have an hourly rate to go by based on what the new law enforcement center cost us, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel there.
sounds good. I
So
will,
the building permit will be, it'll be minimal.
I will discuss with them, and if they have any further questions, I'll bring it to the next meeting, but I think that should cover all the questions that she brought up to me. I know she would like it if we did it, because she would like to be hands off on that, but it's not necessarily our call on that, so.
She's not gonna be unless they designate somebody else, but yeah. Cause she's gonna be making decisions when they're working.
Yeah, any changes or any, yeah.
But I would tell them to get the contractors in there before they do a lot of planning on their own.
In case there's,
Well, the contractors would be like, we can't do this
right,
because of this, so. Plus, they might have better ideas.
Is she gonna have to advertise for bids?
She wouldn't have to.
no,
Just.
That's what I'm saying. It makes it easier if they do it.
Just give a call to those guys.
yeah, they're a nonprofit, so they don't fall under the requirements that other bodies fall under for bidding processes.
perfect.
And even if we thought about using the loophole, if it's not public funds, we're still gonna probably follow them. We're gonna err on the side of caution, that if we handle it ourselves, we're gonna go through all that process.
All sealed, all that, yeah. That's all I got in that.
Okay. Approve accounts payable, vouchers.
Move to pay the bills.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. I got to see the monthly reports. And then payroll new hires for the minutes.
We did not have any changes this month.
Anybody have anything else?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Have a good day, everybody.
Two.